Napoleon, was it boring? Was it okay? Was it great? Find out in my review right now. Okay, we're back with another episode of talking about Napoleon Bonaparte. That's right, we're talking about Ridley Scott's version, and it's written by David Scarpa. And David Scarpa, I don't know how he kind of got involved with Ridley Scott. He's only written like 5 different scripts that have been produced. And one of them was, I guess he wrote 3 episodes of Man in High Castle. So he's definitely a slow burn type of a writer. And I think that's what, affected this film more than anything. And I know I'm a little late getting to the thing, but, I was out of town for Thanksgiving when this came out. So I'm trying to do catch up. And, of course, some other films have come out that I wanted to see obviously more. So now nothing came out this week, so I jumped into this one. But yeah, so David Scarpa is also writing the sequel to Gladiator. So I guess be prepared for a very slow burn Gladiator movie, which I don't know how to take. So I know that also that Ridley Scott went on a little tirade that everybody was quoting him on, that he didn't give a shit about history. He wanted to make a good movie. So there are parts of the film that don't adhere to historical fact. And that was another problem. So the movie's got 2 problems. A, it's very slow burn. And on top of that, it's not historically accurate in certain areas. And I'd like to say, too, that the writing, sometimes it was hard to follow because it tries to do, that's why some historical films, and I love historical films. I've written a biography, a World War II biography, so history is a lot of, I do really delve into that quite a bit, and I love his stuff. In fact, I just rewatched all of the 2 Elizabeth films, which is amazing that even in early 2000s, Golden Age was made for $55 million. And these films are made for, this has huge battle scenes. The one thing I can say about Ridley Scott is he knows how to direct huge, epic, sprawling battle scenes. And if anything's good in this film, besides some of the acting, it's the battle scenes. But let me go back to the fact that some of this stuff is kind of all over the place, which is the problem of the writing, where even I got lost at certain times. And like in the beginning, okay, so we have the Reign of Terror going on, but he just assumes that the whole audience knows what the Reign of Terror was. And of course, it was, the ousting of Marie Antoinette and getting her head cut off. But we don't ever get to see her reign at all. And, so then we had 2 different partisans, those who wanted the monarchy back and those who didn't. And that was the part that won out. And I forgot to look up if, I know very little about French history to the point of today, but let's see if there's a French king 2023. And I don't think it has a monarchy today. So, because that's the other thing that this film got wrong, but we'll get into some of that stuff in a second. The film starts out with the Reign of Terror, and then he goes directly into him getting a promotion because he's going to stop the royalists from gaining any power. So he basically has the military get in between the royalists and the non-royalists. I don't know what you'd call I know I know they had coalitions and stuff like that that were created to go against him, and he had certain campaigns. But anyway, he then starts these other campaigns that are very, very quick. So they mention the fact that he went up against Italy and Spain, and that's it. We don't ever get to see any of it. So I know that there was a miniseries in 2002, which I may watch, because this was obviously should have been more of a miniseries, or he should have just taken a sliver, like they did with Elizabeth, a sliver of his life, and kind of expounded on that, instead of trying to tell the story all the way from the Reign of Terror all the way through his exile at St. Helena. I think that was where it was. It was too expansive, and if anything stuck out, it was Vanessa Kirby's performance. Because if you've seen her in Mission Impossible, if you've seen her in The Crown, this was an entirely different skin for her to play this very, very complicated Josephine character whose husband was beheaded. She had 2 children, and then she met Napoleon, and he was infatuated with her, and then they married her, and she immediately had an affair. But what they got wrong, and also didn't expound on her character, which there was plenty of time to do so, was the fact that she was very into horticulture and art. And we never delved into any of those pieces of personality. In fact, where she was kind of exiled to after the annulment, she had that built. And we never get to see any of that either. So, but it was time to do that, because we see shots of her just being by herself and stuff like that, and there was no reason for those. Plus the kids completely disappear until the end of the film, which I completely disagree with. Also, there was plenty of places where we can see her being a mother and stuff to that effect, because I guess she couldn't be a mother anymore, which is why that annulment took place, because she couldn't give him a son, she couldn't give him an heir. So even though he loved her, he couldn't be married to her anymore, because she couldn't procreate the line. But what they also got wrong was that she actually asked to go into exile with him. But throughout this movie, it made it seem like he was just a marriage of convenience for her, so that she had the financial and as well as stability for her children. But again, we never see the children again. So, but obviously she did love him more, because she was willing to go onto an island with him. But what also they got wrong is that he's invading, and he goes to the house, and he finds out there that she died. That is incorrect. He actually gets word while he's in Elba that she died, and he gets reclusive for 2 days. And so they purposely got certain elements wrong. But the big battle that they had, Austerlitz, I think it is, where it was, which is kind of amazing, because us, we go outside, even me being in Georgia now, for being from California, I'm not used to the cold, and it's already getting cold here. And I'm like running to the car to turn the heat on, But here these guys were spending months out in the cold and they couldn't even light fires at times, because it would give away their position in the battle. But the Austerlitz battle probably was the best battle in the film. We got to see Waterloo, and I don't know enough about the strategy of Waterloo to give any comment on that. Because the reason that they gave for the fact that that they lost was because they had to wait for the rain to stop, and so it was basically blamed on weather in the film. I don't know if that's true or not, because they knew that Austria was coming to help the English, and they had to act quickly because the army was marching on them, and eventually they did arrive and supported the English and attacked the flank, which demolished their whole thing. But the whole battle made it seem like he was just rushing in and just sacrificing lives, and I can't see how that was the case, because after you see him set up everything in Austerlitz, seeing the Battle of Waterloo, and that the British were a lot more strategic. They were creating little, which I thought was really cool. They created little pockets of squares so that they couldn't. It was almost like a shield wall without shields. And I thought that was really interesting, but it seemed like the English were far more prepared than he was. And after seeing Austerlitz, but then we also see what happened in Russia, even though that campaign went on a lot longer than what we see in the film. There was a lot more battles that took place, but it almost seemed like there was only one. So again, there was, it was more apt for if he was going to tell the full story. It was supposed to be like a mini-series, which I guess they've already done. So I don't know, but I can definitely see. I even posted this thing on TikTok, my little 1 minute thing that I've also put on YouTube, and I already got comments back. Oh, it was a bad movie. Oh, it was boring. It was a snore fest. And I can definitely see how people could see it that way. How people could be bored. I'm not even gonna try to argue anything on the other side of that coin. I could definitely admit that it's a slow burn, and that it is extremely slow where it doesn't need to be at points, and especially if we were trying to tell his entire story. There are, I think, scenes, and this is the problem with the writer, and that's why I don't know why he jumped on him as opposed to going back to the original Gladiator writer, who was very economical. And I don't feel that this script is economical. So, and again, it's confusing at parts, because also when he has to abdicate, right, at that point, the Bourbons, the royalty had created another coup and had taken over while he was out of the country. So he returned to, be exiled and have to abdicate because they took over Paris. But in the film, we are led to believe that because of the loss in Russia, they pushed him out, which was not the case. So we missed that whole portion about the new leaders coming in, and he was pushed out because of that. So his campaigns keeping him away from Paris continually is what caused basically his demise. Because he got pissed off that the Tsar of Russia made an alliance with England behind his back, and he hated England. So that's what caused him to try to drive into Russia when he shouldn't have. So anyway, I enjoyed the film for what it was. Again, I'm not going to argue with the fact that it was boring at times. Not going to argue that at all. I'm not going to also argue with the fact that it took liberties in the history. But I enjoyed it for what it was. I thought it was an above average film, not a great film. I'm not going to give it a 9 or anything like that. I would probably more give it a 7. And a lot of that has to do with Kirby's performance. I thought she knocked that shit out the park, even though the character was portrayed incorrectly from what she actually was in history. But she had this, wry smile. She was constant. She was she was emotionally torn. We saw it. She just was able to emote better than I've ever seen, some of those actresses do with these kind of roles. And the role is not that big a role. And, what's that old saying? There's no such thing as a small role. So even though this was a supporting role, kind of like what Joaquin Phoenix had in Gladiator, the supporting role actually outshined the main role. And another thing about Joaquin Phoenix in this, he was able to embody him in face, right? So Napoleon in his face and his looks and his deadpan stares and his analytical stares. So it's like a deadpan analytical, so he's always sizing people up, right? And I really liked how he did that, but the voice he chose, which is basically his own voice, the voice he chose for Napoleon didn't match. I don't think it matched the character. It was a little bit too squeaky, and I don't imagine a general that eventually became an emperor would have that kind of squeaky voice. So I think he should have chosen another voice for that character. And maybe that because it wasn't commanding, I think that's also where you lost, audience as the scenes were going on, because he didn't have a, that's it. He did not have a commanding presence in the film. And I think that's part of the problem, is that when he didn't command the room when he walked into it. If you watch Elizabeth, the Golden Age, when Clive Owen appeared on this into the scene, he commanded it. I mean, this is a boat captain, a pirate for the most part, Riley, and when he walked on, you immediately respected him, where in this case, not so much. And I think that was a problem with Joaquin Phoenix, and I just think that the meetings between Joaquin Phoenix and Ridley Scott didn't evolve into the character that it should have been. So I think that's part of the problem. So, and I'm a big fan of the art. I mean, that's one of my favorite paintings is Napoleon on the white horse. And I actually own it if it matched anything in my decor in my house. You could tell that it doesn't. I only have medieval stuff and superhero stuff, and the Bonaparte thing wouldn't make any sense. But anyway, and of course I have movie posters and stuff like that, a lot of the stuff that I've created myself. And then let's talk about Josephine in real life for a second. So in 1859, there was a statue erected of her. And it's been there since 1859. That is a long time. That is, 150 years or whatever it may be, right? Over 150 years. Then in 2020, a anti-racist or racism group tore the head off it and poured blood on it. Why? Why would you destroy art for no reason? I don't know how, colonialism bad thing, but you're destroying history. Why? Whether you agree with history or not in today's time, why? I don't understand. History is history. We learn from history, we move on, but you don't destroy history. You don't make believe it doesn't exist anymore. There was tons of it. In fact, 100 years from now, they're going to say, look at all the mistakes they made in 2020 to 2023 or 2024. There's always going to be problems with history from the past. There's always going to happen, but we are there to learn from it, and we are here to... the guy who sculpted it probably did a great job. I can't tell because the head's gone. It's just sad. It's just sad. So... I'm like, hey, maybe the next time I'm in Europe, I'll go there and take a look at, because I found out there was a statue of her, and then I looked it up, and there's no head on it. It's just sad. Anyway, that's it for me. But as I said, it's probably a 7 for me. For me, it was above average, but not great. I liked it for what it was, but it has a lot of flaws. And I'm not going to argue that fact at all from what everybody's saying. I'm not, yeah, you could come at me and say, "Oh, it sucked." I'm like, yeah, I can see it. I can see how you think it sucks. Plus, is the costumes and you know, I see things from a filmmaking point of view also, where I know how hard it is to get some of those locations and how hard it is to get those costumes made and to how hard it is to have. I mean, I don't even know. Obviously, some of those extras were CGI'd because the battle thing stretched forever. But even to bring in 100 extras and clothe them and fit them with all the gear and give them weapons and make the weapons all fire, and that's a lot of work, man. I mean, it's a lot of work. So I appreciate some of that stuff. So anyway, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you helping me grow the channel. Again, whether you agree with my opinions or not, you know, you could feel free to tell me I'm a complete idiot. I've been told many times before. It doesn't bother me in the least. So feel free. But anyways, there's going to be other videos that pop up this way. This is why I'm behind the camera. And no, it is that. No, it is on this side. Yeah, you're right, because this is where they're going to put it. But yeah, so thank you again so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate your patronage, and happy holidays to everyone. And I'm going to continue making comic reviews, and I don't know what movies are coming out, but I'll continue to throw things up through the end of the year. I'm hoping to get back to work at the beginning of the year I know with more films. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good one. All right. Bye-bye.